What is going on, guys? And welcome into the full preview for the Pinstripe Bowl, the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl against Boston College tomorrow, in which I have an update, a breaking news update, and a couple players that will be out tomorrow, and they are huge in terms of helping Nebraska out. But first, if you will stick with me just for this for just a second, I wanted to talk about something a little bit more serious in terms of my channel, as it is currently under attack with false copyright claims. And I just want to explain this a little bit more in detail. So essentially, this XOS Digital Sports is claiming my all 22 film review footage as copyright of an ESPN broadcast. And essentially, this company works with ESPN and other networks to produce the content, or to produce the actual footage in the broadcasts. And YouTube does not help its creators at all. I have put in a appeal, I put in a dispute, and that got denied, but it only goes to the people who are already originally claiming that video as copyright. YouTube does not intervene. Then I appealed, and they also did not intervene there. They don't look at it unless I take it to court, which obviously I can't afford to go to court and fight this battle. And they have demonetized my video, and they demanded that I take it down, or my channel will receive a copyright strike, and then I will not be able to monetize my videos for 90 days. And I put a lot of hard work into these videos, so it's very, very frustrating that this is happening, and they're abusing the copyright system, and YouTube does not protect its creators in any way. It is protected under fair use as I'm adding commentary over it. And again, it's not a game broadcast. So I am going to be putting some of my film reviews behind the membership walls. So if you would be so kind in potentially thinking about becoming a member to help me out, because I do want to post those here, but there's also the chance that those will continue to get demonetized. And so I won't be making any revenue from those. So, these will be out for the $4.99 and the $9.99 tiers for the memberships. So if you do, like I said, want to become a member and be able to have access to those, please consider doing that by going to the channel page, hitting the join button. I think it might be at the bottom of the page as well. But please consider doing that, subscribing to the channel, drop a like, help me out as much as you can with the algorithm. But yeah, it's kind of frustrating. They've done it to 3 of my videos. And like I said, YouTube will not help me out. The only way I could get that assistance is if I go to court, which obviously I can't afford financially. So, now, with that being said, let me go ahead and dive into the bowl game, because we still got a bowl game to play outside of all this. And this one shouldn't get copyright stricken. Now, I'm going to start from the Boston College side of things, and then we're going to go over to the Nebraska side of things and just talk about, each level and just kind of go from there. But we're going to start with the quarterbacks for Boston College, or the quarterback, but the situation that transpired over the season. Of course, Grayson James came in, to replace Castellanos. The issue there with Castellanos essentially was, he's more of a running quarterback. Bill O'Brien has this pro style of offense, and the fit just wasn't really there. It wasn't, his style, about 5'9". So, Grayson James at 6'3", over 200 pounds, really had more of a pro style build to him, and is able to have more success in this offense. Castellanos, of course, lost his ability to run with those injuries, and only had 194 yards rushing on the season after having over 1,100 yards last year. Now, another thing that happened is it turned him more into a pocket passer, and just he was not getting rid of the ball quick enough. Just talking about, their overall time to throw, Castellanos was sitting here at 3.27 seconds time to throw, which is really, really bad. Leads to a lot of sacks, leads to a lot of pressures. Now, compare that to Grayson James at 2.71. That's considered a pretty good number. When you're looking at NFL statistics, or average for quarterbacks to make it to the NFL, you're looking at about 2.8 as the level that you want to hit for that. Now, we're moving on down to kind of his overall, Castellanos' overall numbers, and just kind of how that transpired. Started 20 games, 3,600 passing yards, 1,307 rushing yards, and like I said, 1,100 as a sophomore, but only had 194 as a junior. And I'm gonna fucking lose. All right, so with that out of the way, let's just go ahead and dive into the preview. Now, I'm going to start with Boston College, and we're going to kind of go through quarterbacks on down, and then we'll get to Nebraska for a quick little, preview there as well. So starting with Boston College, let's just start with that quarterback position and how that transpired this season. So Grayson James, of course, replaced Castellanos. The big reason for the switch, not only due to Castellanos' injuries, which hindered his ability to run because he is more of a dual threat type of guy who does rely on that run game a lot. But it wasn't a fit in Bill O'Brien's more pro style of offense. So they do run a very, balanced offense where that goes. But Grayson James, as opposed to Castellanos, who's 5'9", Grayson James is about 6'3", over 200 pounds. So definitely more of a fit in that pro style of offense that Bill O'Brien does like to push the ball down the field. So that big body will give him more of an opportunity to be able to push that ball into the wind, et cetera, and be able to drive that ball down the field. Now, when it comes to how much they target the deep part of the field, they actually target that more than the intermediate part of the field. So an opportunity there for Nebraska to be able to kind of slow that down and, potentially be able to, kind of force them to throw the ball short, which they like to do. And in this cold weather, they may not be able to throw the ball as deep or really kind of get in that deep ball range. Again, they target the deep part of the field way more than the intermediate part of the field, which is that 10 to 19 yard range. So now they do run a very balanced offense, like I said. And one of the things that Castellanos, did well was add that extra element of the run game, but he just did not have a good time to throw percentage, which led to sacks, et cetera. So Castellanos was sitting there at about 3.27 seconds in terms of his time to throw, whereas Grayson James was about 2.71, which is considered a pretty good number when you're looking at the average range of, to make it the kind of mid-range to make it to the NFL. You want to be around that 2.8 mark and kind of, up to that 2.5 mark, especially. That's considered pretty decent. So 3.27 to 2.71 gave them more opportunities to kind of, really be able to limit sacks and take the pressure off the offensive line. Castellanos was a good thrower, 3,600 yards passing and 20 games starting, 1,307 rushing yards. Like I said, 1,100 last year as a sophomore, but only 194 under Bill O'Brien as a junior. So, moving on to Grayson James and what he accomplished, started the last 3 games for him, of course, his best game being the last one. But that was against Pittsburgh, who ended their season on a 6-game losing streak. Now, it's like I said, 6'3", 226 pounds. So he's a big body guy. He can occasionally run, got 3 touchdowns rushing on the season, but much more of a pocket passer, going to try to push that ball down the field and into that, short range as well. Now, one of the things that I talked about in the beginning of the show, they're going to be without their best tackle, and that is going to be Ozzie Trapilo. And the big thing about this is Ozzie Trapilo was by far their best pass blocker on the season. Run average, he was kind of about middle of the road, kind of same with the other offensive linemen, but he had an 80.5 pass block grade. He only allowed 2 sacks and 12 hurries all season and had a pass block efficiency of 97.5, which means that kind of factors in how many snaps he's taken in the pass blocking comparatively to how many hurries and sacks that they've weighted against it. 97.5 efficiency, which is really, really good. Now, looking over the Boston College wide receivers, Lewis Bond will be the heaviest targeted guy. He has 60 receptions on the season, 590 yards, by far their most targeted guy. And, they do have a deep ball threat on there, averages about 18 yards per catch, but lower reception numbers, but he is that potential for that deep ball threat as well. Kyle Robichaux, 725 rushing yards in the season to 10 touchdowns. So, like I said, they run a very balanced offense. Nebraska can key in on stopping one of these elements. I would imagine more so just kind of lean on stopping that run, especially in this cold weather game. It can turn them into a one-dimensional team, and really kind of Nebraska will be able to pin their ears back a little bit more and try to get after quarterback, which I expect Nebraska to try to do, which I'll get into in just a second with John Butler's defense breakdown. Now, defensively, they have a pretty good opportunistic defense, pretty good run defense as well. Now, they are going to be missing their biggest piece of that. I'm going to dive into him in just a second. But in terms of their defense, very opportunistic. 16 interceptions, 7 fumbles on the season, and a top 20 run defense. So They are a defense that can force turnovers. They are a defense that can slow the run, but Nebraska will probably have the best offense that they have seen. Considering how Nebraska's offense have played recently, but got to convert that to points. Now, here's where the big loss comes from. They're going to be without their defensive end and All-American Donovan Ezerako. Pronunciation might be terrible. Apologies there. But he has been a dominant force. 16.5 sacks on the season. 5.5 sacks in the last 2 games. 3.5 coming in their last game. He has by far been their best pass rusher and a force out there on the edge. But he's more of a pass rusher than he is a run stopper. So, he's been one of their better run defenders the last 2 weeks. But over the season, had ups and downs. But in terms of just pressuring the quarterback, that is going to be a huge, huge loss for them, which should take some pressure off of Nebraska's offensive line. Now, moving over to Nebraska. Nebraska will, of course, have their opt-outs, Isaiah Nair and the players in the portal. Now, offensively, what we can expect with Holgorsen's offense, we saw a little bit of a simplified version of that and kind of grown that over the last couple weeks of the season, but now we fully get to kind of see a little bit of what Holgorsen wants to do to an extent, and reportedly we're going to see a lot more wrinkles in that game. So a little bit more of a showcase of what we could potentially see next season, and I expect to see good things from this offense as we have seen before. The efficiency has been there. Essentially, it's just been a matter of targeting that short part of the field a little bit more, getting Dylan Raiola in those rhythm throws early, taking what the defense gives you. And that way you get the tempo going, you get his timing going, you get him comfortable in the pocket once he sees a couple of those throws going to the receiver's arms. Also the ability to get the playmakers in space and allow them to do a little bit of the work themselves. And ultimately that paired with the run game will set up the deep pass. As I talked about before, Dana Holgorsen, his offensive system is essentially setups for the other stuff. You try to get to the outsides, you spread that defense out, you give Dylan Raiola bigger windows to throw into, and then you kind of open up that run game, you bring those defenders down, and then you're able to target that deep part of the field, which hopefully we'll be able to see Dylan Raiola kind of connect on some of those deep balls and really start to get some confidence going on making those throws, which he's struggled with a lot this season. Now, when it comes to what we're going to see in terms of just on the depth chart, maybe from players that we haven't seen a lot this year, Jason Masajak, the backup left guard, his dad tweeted the other day about how he told him just keep his head down, put in the work and the opportunity will come. Now, Jason was originally recruited as a defensive lineman and made the move over to the offensive line as the defensive line was pretty stacked. And now he's second on the depth chart in terms of the left guard position. So might have an opportunity to see him out there. Quentin Ives, we've heard his name a lot. He'll be the third running back on the depth chart. Now he's a little bit different. The other two is 6'3", 210 pounds from New Jersey. And they have a very physical style of running the ball in New Jersey. So it'll be interesting to see how Quentin Ives is kind of implemented in this game plan, but it is noted that he has been a big part of what they've been planning to do. So we'll see a lot of Quentin Ives out there as well. And then we, of course, have Jalen Gramstead as the QB2, Harburg QB3, and then Harburg is also the third tight end on the depth chart. So offense, we're going to kind of probably see a lot of the same stuff we've been seeing, but hopefully a little bit more efficiency and putting the ball in the end zone is going to be paramount, of course. Hopefully we can get in that 27 to 30 point range. Now, defensively, Nebraska had some serious turnover in the portal. But again, some of the young guys are names that we haven't seen yet. We'll see guys like Amari Sanders and Dylan Rogers on the two deeps. And at defensive end, we got a trio of youngsters. We got two sophomores and a redshirt freshman. Now we got Cam Linhart, Riley Van Poppel as the top two. Those two are sophomores. And Dylan Parrott, who's going to be the third string. He's a redshirt freshman. Albeit the total across the depth chart in terms of players who are sophomores or below, so sophomores, redshirt freshmen, and freshmen, true freshmen, 14 of the 25 players on the defensive side on that depth chart are going to be sophomores or below. really good opportunity to see a lot of these young guys, get out there into the rotation, make some plays, see what they got, and have the ability to step up, as they're going into, a lot of them their sophomore season or their junior season. We'll get an opportunity to see. And I for some reason, I have this sneaky suspicion that we're going to see one of these guys that we haven't heard a lot this year make a big play or two that's going to really kind of put them on the map. And so it'll be interesting to see. We had a lot of the turnover, but it'll be interesting to see just how these young guys play and step up in this situation. And like I said, it's going to be easy to root for these guys to go out there and make some plays. And, they're going to be ready to go. Defensively, John Butler, he's going to be more aggressive in terms of his defensive style. Reportedly more blitz packages, which I've kind of talked about before when breaking him down and just his assistants down. The defensive backs coach is a little bit more of an aggressive style of defensive back in terms of how he coaches them. And so we'll see a lot more four-man fronts from John Butler, and we'll also see a lot more blitzes than we saw under Tony White. So we'll kind of be keying in on stopping that run game and try to make them beat us in the pass game in that cold weather, which will make it a lot more difficult on Grayson James to be able to throw the ball. So that'll, overall, if we can, one of the things that Nebraska struggled with this year in terms of when the offenses have put our backs against the wall and we've struggled against the pass game, a lot of that has come from them establishing the run game on us. Indiana, one of the keys, the first key, the biggest key that I had to that game was stopping the run game. People were talking about the pass game, but if you stop the run game, slow down the run game, which Nebraska can do, then that limits them to being a one-dimensional team. And you can kind of just, pin your ears back of your defensive ends and your pass rushers, try to get after the quarterback to where they don't have you on your heels and kind of guessing where the ball's going, etc. So my prediction on this game, before the opt-outs for them that happened today, I had a 27-17 prediction. I think now I'm going to go with, I want to go with 30-17. Part of me wants to go with 34-17. I'm torn on that, but Kool-Aid prediction 34-17. Regular prediction will be 30-17. So I don't want them to score more than 17 points. I would love to see Nebraska get over 30. So drop your predictions down below. Also, like I talked about in the beginning of the video, if you do want to become a member, it will really, really help me out, and I really, really appreciate it. But like I said, as usual, even so much